Thomas Nast, the creator of the American image of Santa Claus, the one who populated the idea of the donkey for the Democrats and invented the elephant for the Republicans. Born in Landau, Germany, on September 27, 1840, Nast was born into a family of four that had recently lost two children. His household consisted of himself, his two parents, and his sister, Andy Nast. When Nast was 6 years old, his father, Joseph, was enlisted onto a French warship, and his family moved to New York. When Nast was in New York, he showed little interest in school. He constantly drew and doodled all over his papers rather than doing his work. The school he was attending was the National Academy of Design. When Nast turned 14 years old, he dropped out of school and wanted to pursue his career in art. His art was first showcased on Harper's Weekly, a political magazine in America. He was hired due to his talent in drawing war scenes and camp depictions. From there, his career and his legends were born. Nast's career was escalating at key points in American history. He started off during the Civil War and used his caricature to shine light all over areas that needed refinement. He showed how the war was going in his cartoons and what was happening. An example of this is his cartoon titled The Union as It Was, in which Nast illustrates the tragedies and the difficult situation the freedmen were in. He portrays the way the Ku Klux Klan were oppressing the freedmen and how they were burning schools and hanging teachers. He also showed how he didn't support a compromise between the Union and the Confederacy. He believed that if a compromise was reached, then no progress would be made and a countless amount of Union soldiers would have lost their lives for no reason. An example of this was his cartoon, Compromise with the South, which depicts people mourning over their loss, with a message on a gravestone, in memory of the Union heroes who died in a useless war. Once the Civil War finally ended, many things began to happen. Reconstruction and robber barons such as Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, and John D. Rockefeller all rose to power. Many people began to immigrate, and corruption in politics was afoot. Nast began to turn his attention to corruption in politics, and there he found William Magyar Tweed. William Magyar Tweed, also known as Boss Tweed, was a political boss at the time. A political boss was an official that used misleading tactics to gain money through the community. Boss Tweed promised new immigrants that lived in horrible conditions money, food, and jobs. People would live in tenements or apartments that were built for 1 to 3 people but housed 7 people. Boss Tweed saw how desperate everyone was and took advantage of it. He placed political officials as candidates in the state government and promised that citizens would get everything they desired for if they voted for his candidate. No one knew that Boss Tweed was in relation with the candidate he wanted to win, but the more votes he got from that, the more money he made. Nast saw Tweed's true actions and wanted to do something about it. With his pen in hand, Nast was able to communicate these problems through his cartoons. Many immigrants could not speak English, but they could look at his cartoons and draw a message from it. Nast began to take down Boss Tweed using his cartoons, one of his most famous ones being titled The Brains. It features a large man with a bag of money for a head, and the cartoon has a caption, "The brains that achieved the Tammany victory at the Rochester Democratic Convention." According to the cartoon, Tweed only cared about money, and his only motive for operations was the money. Eventually, Nast was able to fully expose Boss Tweed. However, Tweed was not removed from power by Nast. In an ironic twist, Tweed's competitors, who were also bosses, fully exposed him of his crimes. Tweed was sentenced to prison for forgery and larceny in 1875. He escaped and fled to Spain, where he was arrested by Spanish police. Boss Tweed was finally defeated. Nast was able to expose Boss Tweed by illustrating cartoons. He was able to communicate with a vast multitude of people from different languages. People were migrating from Asia and from Europe, Most people did not know how to speak English. But still, Nast found a way to take down one of the most notorious political bosses, and he became one of the most notable cartoonists, as he claimed in his cartoon titled Father of American Cartoons. Nast continued his career until the day he died. He made political cartoons for Republicans and Democrats, but he did it as a firm Republican. He first popularized the idea of a donkey in a cartoon titled A Jackass Beating a Dead Lion. 4 years later, he showed the image of a donkey in a lion's costume, scaring away other animals, one of which included an elephant labeled the Republican vote. He was saying that Democrats had too much power, and with that, were scaring people from voting. Nast eventually moved to New Jersey because he made enemies with his cartoons. He moved with his wife and 5 children. There, he made 4 financial decisions and ended up in debt. He began to work for the State Department, but Theodore Roosevelt saw his work and appointed him Consul General to Guayaquil. There, Nast passed away due to yellow fever on December 2nd, 1902. Today, we see the tremendous impact he made on the common American figures. He created the symbols for the Democrat and Republican political parties, and the Uncle Sam figure depicting America. His name is constantly spoken. The word nasty, while it does not come from Thomas Nast's name, describes his cartoons perfectly well. He was known to communicate his ideas harshly, and definitely did not let anyone off the hook. And, finally, the way we draw cartoons has changed. Nast paved the way for other political cartoonists, too. Before, people showed exactly what was happening, usually in a non-biased opinion. But after, they were more harsh and drew more drastic cartoons. Through World War I, through the 1918 pandemic, and all the way to today.